Hello, everybody. This is Paul Herman, the Prince of Motivation and host of Zaka Presents My Journey. We're creating this vulnerable and positive platform where you get inspired and motivated from different leaders from our community. Today, our guest is Zuleka Fraser, who is an entrepreneur, underwriter, affordable housing, financial analysis. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on, Zuleka. I know that there's a first and foremost your title, right? You got a beautiful long title attached to your name. So I know with a long title comes a long journey, right? And here on today's show, we're going to definitely dive into that. But before we get into this journey from start to the top where you are right now, just give the listeners a little bit of an understanding of your cultural background and where you're from.
So I am from St. Kitts and
Hmm.
Nevis. I grew up there. I also grew up in Anguilla. Both islands are in the Caribbean. Used to be one, St. Kitts Nevis and Anguilla, but they've separated, severed ties. Not necessarily culturally, but they've Anguilla is still on the British overseas territory, while St. Kitts is independent. So I've spent my elementary years in Anguilla and my high school years in St. Kitts.
Okay. Now, just to help the listeners out with this right now, because you got a lot of individuals from the Caribbean, come on. Now, just express a little bit more about what is it like growing up in this area?
At the time, it was like, get me off this rock in both cases.
Okay. You being real with us. Okay.
Very
Let's talk
real.
about it.
I mean, one of the things growing up in an island, you always think there's more, the grass is greener on the other side. And so you tend to kind of venture into thinking that, when I grow up, I'm gonna leave this place. In both cases, I would say in Anguilla, I left Anguilla to go to St. Kitts in my first year of would be middle school, so first form. And when I was leaving St. Kitts, it was just kind of a desire to um, venture out. But I would, looking back, I had a great childhood. I enjoyed the cultural and folk and history. My island, St. Kitts, has a lot of history. It's the Gibraltar of the Caribbean. We carry a strong heritage from not only being colonized by the French, but also by the British and then the French again. There's a history
Yeah,
in
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
war, and you can see it in the buildings, you can see it in the infrastructure. I often say the French influence in St. Kitts was prominent enough because when I go to New Orleans at at the Fort Ward, that looks just like downtown, some parts of downtown St.
Okay.
Kitts. And even in other French speaking countries like St. Lucia, I see the resemblance of where that country and St. Bart's, where that country
Okay. Got
where
to be the Saint Islands.
the saints, where the French culture is in the infrastructure. So it was a great experience. We did a lot, although there was not a lot to do, but in retrospect, I had a lot of time outside.
Okay, not like now.
Not like now, had a lot of time outside, had a lot of time, just hanging out with friends and getting to know people, building strong bonds, walking to my friends' houses because we live in the same neighborhood. So it was pretty good. I often say, when I live in the US, I'm looking at the fact that we really had it well, the
Mm,
other way
mm.
around.
When you
It
when
was
you cross
pure
over to that
simplicity.
other side, you start
Yeah,
wondering, you start saying, like, hold on. Back then it wasn't that bad. It was
yeah,
actually good. It was actually
yeah,
good. And as you can see, a lot of people from the States want to go visit the Caribbean.
yeah,
They that's their vacation spot. So
yeah.
it just goes to show that we as because I'm also Caribbean, I'm glad you mentioned St. Lucia as well, because
You're from St. Lucia?
my father's from St. Lucia,
Okay,
Sofre, Castries as well, and my
okay.
mother's from Portland, Jamaica.
Oh, okay,
So the
nice.
Caribbean side of me is strong. You don't know, yeah?
Yes,
It's
yes.
in.
You have
Uh,
both small island and large island vibes.
Yes, yes, yes. And the
Yes.
vibes is real. The vibes is real. So
Yes.
I always like to, when I'm speaking to individuals from the Caribbean, just share those kind of stories and things like that.
Yeah.
But you did mention about the U.S. and immigrating over here, but I want to know a little bit more about that. Like, how was that experience, and how did it shape your journey to get into like the real estate and finance, and especially in like affordable housing?
Yeah, so I came into the US, I should say back to the US. I was actually born in the US, and migrated back to St. Kitts when I was a child. Both my mom and dad are from St. Kitts. So I had never ventured out here since leaving at about what, 2 years old. So came back when I was 18, yes, when I was 18 years old, and decided like I want to go to college. The goal was I'm going to college, I'm gonna work. Well, actually, it wasn't that I wanted to go to college. I wanted to go to work. I got to Miami to one of my
Okay.
uncle's house, and he was like, so either you're going to go to work or you're going to go to college. And at the time when I got to Miami, I had no job. So I had to pick one option. So we went on campus and took a look around. My cousin was attending Florida Memorial University. And
Okay.
so I often say, like, oh, this was okay, my uncle kind of was like, oh, well, you're gonna either have to work or go to college, but you won't be able to stay here for free. So I often tell people I went to college looking for a room and messed around and got an education.
Okay. 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 Shout out to the uncle for like really pull it. He was like, "Look, we're gonna do it the right way, the
Yeah,
hard
and
way."
that was so funny. My uncle, who's also from the Caribbean, that uncle gave me that ultimatum. I went to Atlanta to another uncle, and he was like, "Well, it's almost September. What are you doing?" So I was like, "Oh, I'm running to one uncle from the other uncle." They both had the same resolve, and I
Uh,
was like, "Okay, we're gonna have to go to school."
so you was in school in Florida at first, and then you went to another school in Atlanta.
No, so I think I came in about like July. About July. So after I visited my uncle in Miami, I and his, that was his resolve. I was like, I'm gonna go to Atlanta to visit my other uncle.
Sure.
And both of them came up with the same resolve by the end of summer. Hey, what are you doing? And so I did visit Florida Memorial Campus while I was in Miami as I entered, and just thought to apply because it was, I'm figuring out, I'm coming in at 18. I believed I could have gotten a job, with this strong St. Kitts accent. And, and first of all, no kind of experience about the US, no kind of understanding about the climate in Miami and the Caribbean culture and all that stuff. I'm pretty sure they probably were thinking, do you need a work permit? Because
Yeah.
even though I was, I'm American, I still have an accent. I still have a strong
Yeah.
accent.
Yeah.
So that's how I came into the US, and then I started college that fall
Okay.
at Florida Memorial.
Well, there was already a game plan for you. You didn't even know
Yeah,
it.
apparently.
You was
So.
on a flight, and they were like, "Look, who's gonna break the news, sir?" That's really what was going down behind closed doors. So
Yes.
I'm just gonna let you know I wasn't there, but I could only imagine that was going on a conversation, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Now, affordable housing is complex and is a high impact sector. What motivated you to focus on this area?
So funnily enough, so I really now do believe there was a plan, now that you say that. So I got to Florida Memorial, met a lady who went to the church that my uncle goes to. She happens to be the president of Tokosi Economic Development Corporation, needs a office assistant, and I started working with her. Tokosi Economic Development, which is now TEDC, is a affordable housing developer. They
Okay.
already had projects in Miami, Edison Towers, Edison Gardens and Terraces. So I ended up working with her as an office assistant, then grew to a leasing agent, and started working on the property. So I knew, I always tell people I got into this industry on the back end, meaning that I was on site doing tenant income verifications, certifications, what we call ticks, and compliance side and reporting in the leasing office. It wasn't until I had gone back to Anguilla and then came back to Miami in 2013 and had completed my master's degree in 2015 and was just looking for something a little bit more. In the
Mm-hmm.
space I was in Anguilla, I worked in a bank in Anguilla and was a mortgage loan officer. And I was like, in the frustration of like, I have my master's, there has to be something better to do. I like housing because I really bonded with the idea and the fact that as a leasing agent, I got to see hands-on. People come from Camilla's house to their first home, their first apartment, or
Mm-hmm.
somebody leaving foster care and venturing out on their own, starting life on their own. So seeing those kind of stories, it always resonated with me that I know who I'm serving. And not only growing into the leasing space, I was also the resident services coordinator. So I know my seniors, I know where they want to go. I plan those events and whatnot. So
Okay.
when it got to taking a look at where do we go from here, I literally Google search everything that I knew and liked. I searched for finance and housing, and an opportunity came up. Um, Oh God, I think it's Career Builder.
Okay.
When
Oh
Career
yeah, yeah.
Builder was a
Career
thing,
builder.
yeah. So when Career Builder was a thing, I put in those two words, and an opportunity came up at Georgia DCA, and I was like, for a tax credit underwriter. During my time at the bank, I had already earned my underwriting certification with the Real Estate Institute of Canada. And so I was like, I have this, I have a master's. I think I could do this job. It was a tax credit underwriter. I applied. They interviewed me over the phone in the car on lunch.
While you were at work, you were putting in some serious work over there.
Oh,
Like,
yes.
I'll be back. I'm just gonna do lunch real quick.
Yeah, let's give me 2 minutes. I was in the car on lunch. They interviewed me. I think at the time was Robert Frank and Drew Swope. And within about like maybe 3 days, they gave me an offer to come to Georgia to work. And so I made the move. I think that was in 2015. Made the move, and it's been definitely uphill from there.
Okay, okay. So you moved around a lot.
Yeah,
Hey, well, moving around sometimes people find it very annoying, but there's a lot of growth in moving.
yeah, yeah,
Learning different cultures, different movement, different mindsets, different economy, like the
yeah.
backgrounds. Like you get to see a lot. You know what I'm saying? But that's only if you got your eyes open to
Yeah,
those kind
and
of
that
things.
that is exactly what I saw. I realized, while in Miami, the culture was a lot similar to what I knew in the Caribbean. I mean,
Okay.
I don't think Miami belongs to US, but hey. It is very,
A little
very
melting pot over
ingrained
there.
and rich with culture from all Caribbean islands. And when once I completed my master's, I was like, oh man, I really want to be able to venture out and work in a field that I feel passionate about. Like I said, I really like the housing aspect of it, but I also like the finance. And I was like, is there possible to marry the two? And just Googling the words together, I was able to find this opportunity. Now, when I got to DCA, and I was like, oh my God, I did this work. I did
Okay.
this work on the back end. So now I'm doing the work on the front end as an underwriter, taking a look at deals that developers would apply for DCA for tax allocation on their projects. And so when it got to reviewing those type of deals, I would always look at the what they're putting in place. Like a project would have they're building a senior building, and they're gonna have tours to Walmart for the seniors. They're gonna have a computer
Okay.
room. They're
They
gonna
need
have
that.
and the funny thing is that this is exactly what I did. I arranged for tours for my seniors, remember, as a resident services coordinator. My kids had a computer room. So when I start to look at these applications, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so like almost full circle to have worked on the back end and now come to the front end and see how these things really do get
Yeah,
funded.
that's good. That's good. It's sometimes you don't even know that your journey is actually where you need to be.
Yeah,
And then when you get to where you need to be, you're like, wait, hold up. I could actually apply this. But
yeah.
along the way, I'm assuming there was a lot of significant challenges that you face in your career um, when inclining. Could you just navigate us through or just speak to us a little bit more about like an obstacle that you had to face during this time?
Yeah, so one of my obstacles, even with the completion of my master's. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm finished my master's, I'm leaving. I was looking for more capacity at work. I was looking for more capacity in other jobs and realized, even being in South Florida, like certain things were um they were definitely not as they told you. Like I have an MBA, so think I should be operating on a certain level with an MBA. And I was only getting called back for certain type of jobs. So that's one of the reasons why I was like, well, maybe it's my surroundings, maybe it's the environment. So let's change the environment. And so I'm an advocate for I don't have a problem moving around as long as it's adding value.
Yeah.
And so I'm not moving and starting over and starting from scratch. I'm starting from experience. So I get to Georgia and I'm figuring out, okay, this is how this goes. When I get to Georgia, and almost every job does have an obstacle. I get
Yeah.
to Georgia, I'm like, I'm still new on what is a tax credit. And I am grateful for one of my work friends who really took me under her wings, Willa, took me under her wings and literally taught me everything she knew. And she had been in the organization many years. And so when I started to grow and realize like with my MBA, with my underwriting, with my experience in the leasing office and what have you, this is clicking easy for me. How can I get certified in what I'm doing? And so I reached out to one of my managers at the time and I asked, I looked for the certification, which was the rental housing development finance professional certification, which is one that I now have. And I reached
Mhm.
out to him and I asked him, I said, hey, can I be able to go to this? It's, I think the courses were held in Minneapolis at the time. They were a little bit pricey, but there was no other certification that I thought would be more fitting to learn so that it can apply to me learning, more about my job and what I do and be able to be more effective. And his response was, oh, this is not something for your level. This is something that this would be good for me. Thank you. So he took my paperwork. He said thank you. And then
Oh no.
yes, he did.
Oh, I would
He
have went right
said,
over the table.
he said thank you. Myself and another colleague will go. And then he also told me
Oh,
I can get more instruction on YouTube. So that I did. I went to
wow.
YouTube. I literally still have it, and I use all those YouTube videos that I was able to watch and learn, even though they were like short sessions about what I'm doing. I took all those videos and created a list. So from intro to tax credits, what is bond, the 4% bond, 9%, that
Wow, wow, wow.
8609, what have you. I took all those videos, put them in like a playlist. And that playlist I used to onboard people when they came into the agency. So there's
Well,
challenges, there's
it
opportunities.
was a negative, but turned into a positive. I'm
Yeah,
hearing you on that.
yeah,
I'm hearing that, and that's something you have to give yourself a lot of credit, and a lot of praises at that point because sometimes we harp on the negative. We
yeah,
stay, especially when you're like, I'm trying to finally make it. I'm graduating. I'm here. I'm working, and then someone you do all this work, you're ready. You're excited to share, and someone says, "Thank you for doing this. This is not in your league. I'll take this." And myself and another one of our colleagues will go, and you're just
Yeah.
like, what about me? Right? But then you said, okay, they said, check it up on YouTube. You did that, and look at you now. You're onboarding people through the same
Yeah.
YouTube videos. So
Same YouTube videos.
that's, but that's the legacy. That's the history, right?
Yeah.
You know, you're like those videos helped me. Now it could help you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's I'm wow. I'm sorry that you were even in a conversation with
No,
that.
and I'm not sorry about it. I learned a lot being able to go through those videos, and I figured that things are not going to come easy. I wasn't to be honest, when I got hired, I didn't even ask about a training budget, but it taught me on the next job I need to make sure I have a training budget, because while I'm still learning, how to do things in the organizational culture, or even so, with no experience with the tax credit at the time, I wanted the opportunity to grow. And so I was able to, I didn't even know, he directed me to YouTube without me knowing that the information I can find on YouTube would be helpful. And from doing that, I was able to sign up for training with those content providers that were putting information out there. So not only getting
Okay.
that additional training, because I never really did get my certification until 2021. So and that was
Mm-hmm.
back in 2017, 2016. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look at you now. And now you got your own company.
Yeah.
You got your own company.
Yes, sir.
Could we dive into that right now? Talk to us.
Yes. Yes, you
How does the
can.
work that you do in your company empower communities, and like that, the housing and solutions?
Yeah, so I say all the time it doesn't really transition differently from the work that I did at Atlanta Housing as a director of underwriting, or DCA, or with the financial advising group I was with previously. The only thing is that, one of the things I do appreciate, and I feel like I get more flexibility to do, is I get to work with developers that may not could have afford this type of capacity in their businesses. I get to be able to come in as your consultant, financial analyst, run these numbers, be able to provide for you the information you would else otherwise need. And this too also happens very frequently with our Black and Brown developers. They don't have the capacity. They're not getting the same type of funding opportunities to be able to build out a team.
That's
So
true.
um, being able to use my skill set to provide that is very helpful, very, very encouraging as well.
When you're able to apply things that you've learned over the many years and give it and share that with a community that needs it, right?
Yes,
That's they say that in life the biggest gift you could do is share, right?
I strongly believe that.
Just
I
just
strongly
just
believe.
give. Just give. Like everybody was like, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? As you can see with that coworker of yours, right?
Yeah,
Supervisor, right? But there's a lot of value in sharing. Getting to a place in your life, and I would say, because I work with a lot of artists, I would say you're not an artist unless you give back. You know what
I
I'm saying? You
agree.
got to get to a place where you're like, okay, how do I give back? How do I make that happen? You know, and your background, you have a very intensive background, a lot of history within it, a lot of struggle to get to where you are. But the background in international studies and business administration has given you like a unique lens on global finance, right? So I'm
Yeah.
asking, like, how have these fields influenced your strategies within affordable housing?
So interestingly enough, one of the things that developers or for developers tend to say is like, oh, it's too much policy or regulations and stuff. International policy, and I have to say that I may be the only person or maybe there's one other person from Florida Memorial University, which is a HBCU for the south of in Miami, with a degree in international studies. I think they ended the program after we both left the same year. So but that was very ingrained in policy. understanding global historical data, wars, understanding World War One, two, and not only that, but international treaties and that kind of stuff. So when it came to how was I able to do that, use that information? So at DCA, I not only I came on as a tax credit underwriter, underwriting 9% deals, 4% deals, and ended up also becoming the bond lead. So in 2017, I was able to use that background to write policy and write the 4% policy in the qualified allocation plan for as to how developers would be able to work with us in terms of the bond process. At the time, we did not have pre-application process, so that was written into the QAP to be able to have a pre-application process for bond projects. That was something that we introduced, and I think they've since started to do things a little bit differently, but was able to apply that using policy and definitely be able to delve into the regulations and reading them from an understanding because I've gone through coursework at Florida Memorial, going into policy treaties, what the understanding, interpret the, what the outcome would be and what have you.
Something I'm catching from there is that, you know, when it comes to a lot of those rules, those regulations, a lot of the times, in previous conversations with previous guests, a black and brown community, sometimes don't read through all that. They don't fine comb through everything, and
Yeah.
you might miss certain things, that are out there. So it's important that someone like yourself who has an eye for that kind of thing. It's important to listen up and to utilize individuals like you because it's a lot of information, right?
Mhm.
And
It is. So one of the things too is like interpreting that information, reading regulations, interpreting it, and plugging it into a model.
yeah,
Where I mean everything once you read a qualified allocation plan from whatever state, whatever agency, it has the details in how you should be in thresholds you should be including in your deal. So there's financial thresholds, there's construction thresholds. These things have to be considered significantly if you're going to submit an application. And if they're not included or factored into the numbers, then you might as well have not applied because then you're already non-compliant. So
yeah, that's right.
getting a basic understanding of the regulations and what is required and be able to put that into an Excel model so that my developer can just insert basic information here and have that model build out based according to the requirements is always something I fancy because I get to marry both the MBA and the international studies. But not only that, I get to, you really get to see it flesh out on paper, the intention of the developer and what that would mean to the people I serve.
True, true. Well, congratulations on that, and congratulations on your company.
Thank
And
you.
more importantly, being a leader,
Yeah.
right? And we're gonna talk a little bit into that. Being an immigrant leader, right? More importantly, right?
Yeah.
And who specializes in different fields. What advice would you give for a younger professional, immigrant background looking to make a significant impact in real estate, finance, and development?
So I mean, as a young person, I've definitely advocate for young people to get in this field and get in this field faster than I did. I often say I stumbled here because I came in the back door, looked around and was like, oh, we have a whole session happening here. Once I got to Georgia DCA and realized reading the application that I'm working on the front end, I now find out we have asset managers, we have investors, there's a whole new world on this side. So for me, when it comes to young people, I always say be open to understanding one, different concepts. People go to school and they study commercial real estate. The minute you say affordable housing, they're thinking Section 8. And that takes away from them wanting to learn more about that, because that's not the kind of real estate I want to do. But if you understand that, if you're even given the opportunity to see that with housing authorities, how these deals also are done the same way your market rate commercial real estate is done. However, we have that added compliance to the regulations from the Section 42. So I say to young people, be open to learning a variety of different things in this field. Be open to and be of service. If you have an opportunity to work in a community where affordable housing exists, go over there, find out what the seniors need. Just go and take a look. One of the things that I included, I mentioned I included the videos as my onboarding, but one of the things in the onboarding plan for persons that I work with at DCA that would have come in new was, you have to go to a closing. You have to see the people you serve, because if you don't know who they are, you will not underwrite your deal with them in mind. Your purpose changes. How you look at that deal changes, because you are going to want the best for them once you connect to know I'm a part of the process of providing quality, affordable housing for these people through my action, which is underwriting the deal.
Mm, mm, mm.
So,
I like how you're saying show up. Even it's not about just closing the deal. It's about being there
no,
at the end of the deal, like walking it
no,
all the way through, seeing the people, giving the smiles that people give you. Those connections are priceless
yes.
because then
And
that keep
definitely,
trust.
and because I say, I work in commercial real estate, but my focus is affordable housing. And this is service work. This is purpose work. This is not where, you're probably gonna get rich,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. You gotta
this
love what you do.
that you have to love what you do, which is the background on my LinkedIn, love what you do, because once
Done it all.
this purpose work gets at you, you cannot come into this industry and not feel anything for the work that you do and then leave. A former boss of mine used to say, once you get into affordable housing, it's very hard to leave. Shout
Mm.
out to Rachel Carey.
Okay, you better drop some names. You better drop some names.
Yeah.
Our listeners are gonna start Googling the names real quick. They're gonna go to LinkedIn, go find these people. Right. Your career, and I'm loving the information that you're sharing. But your career, you've worn so many hats, navigated through different roles in high stake environments. Like, how would you describe your approach to leadership? Right. I know we talked about you being a great leader, right? And I could see where being a great leader also comes from you wanting to share
Yeah.
and you wanted to make that connection, right? That's
Yeah.
what those are some of the characteristics that leaders need to have, right? If they want
Yeah.
to be great leaders.
Yeah.
Talk about your approach to leadership and how you make it so effective.
So I don't necessarily have a approach that's textbook ready. My thing is I'm gonna treat people with respect and how I will want to be treated. And even if you're not treating me that, I'm still gonna treat you with respect and how I want to be treated. I often say, if I know, you know, I'm the type of person, I share a lot that I learned. Hey, I got it off of YouTube. I have no reason to go gatekeep. It was out there. Once it's out there,
Yeah, that's right. Share, share.
once it's out there, I have no problem sharing. And so one of the things I do, like, when I get to work with like even young people coming into this job, I'll be willing to walk you through what you need to know. You have questions, reach out to me. I want to give you the opportunity again to get to where you want to be in this industry a little bit sooner than it took me, rather than everybody fumbling the way we fumble, way I fumbled and got into affordable housing. Let me help you with your plan. What is your end goal here? Is this something you're interested in? Do you not like fight underwriting? Are you good with Excel? I've had situations with
Mm,
people. Are
mm,
you good with Excel? If you feel like you're not good with Excel, there's other avenues to take a look at to where to go. So I'm not a leader where I'm following a laissez-faire or what have you, um, type of structure. I just I'm genuine as a person looking to treat people the way I want to be treated.
And you would say that's something along your core value,
Oh,
your
definitely.
guiding principle, like treat people the way you would want to be treated. That's how you kind
Yeah.
of like walk into everything that you're doing.
Yeah.
Uh,
That is a core principle for me. I say every time you can be on top today and on the bottom tomorrow. However, with or without a title, the expectancy is that you're not gonna vary my level of respect because I have or don't have a title.
mhm.
That it's a title. Because
Do
I
you
could tell
feel
you I work at the bank and I'm the janitor, but I work at the bank.
come on,
Okay?
come on?
Treat me with the same respect.
You just said something very big right there. Yeah, yeah.
With the same respect.
I might be the janitor, but I still work at the bank.
Yeah,
I'm a
because
part of that team.
yeah,
Whether and everyone plays their position, everyone plays their role.
right,
And if I'm the janitor in this bank, I'm the one that makes sure this place is safe, clean. You
right.
know, it's up to
Everybody has a role to
yeah.
play. Nothing is insignificant.
I respect what you said. That's you just that makes me say, and I hope the listeners are grabbing you. First and foremost, find yourself a really good team,
Yeah,
a place where you could grow with, right?
yeah,
An organization, a company, a group of individuals,
yeah,
collective, and
yeah,
let everyone play their part and everyone lean into each other. And actually, at that point, everyone just keeps on climbing up that ladder
yeah,
together. Get you?
yeah.
Do you feel like and I just want to know because we Caribbean, right? Do you feel like your Caribbean background has led some of that core value for you?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And even when I talk to young people who come out to the US and you know, getting out here is like it's like Coney Island for us. Like, oh my God, things we have never seen. We
Oh
don't see
wow.
these things on an island,
True. True, true, true.
I mean, the first time, funny story. The first time I went to Walmart when I came to Miami, I was like, these people come to the store every day, not realizing it's so many people in that area that is, very, it's not the same person every day. But in the island, we grew up with the same people. I mean, in Anguilla, you practically know everybody.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so it was just, I say to them, look here, get your focus. You coming out here for a reason. At the end of the day, some of us, we come out, we enjoy the life that we lead out here. But the thing is that you do have a passion for home.
Mm,
And the end of the day, I've not seen a West Indian or a Caribbean person who goes back home and is not thinking, oh man, this is my piece. I'm pretty sure when you get to Jamaica, when you get to St. Lucia, you're like, wow, this is it. And by the way, people pay tons of money to get to where we came from. So please stay on your course, focus,
mm,
focus once you get here because there's going to be a lot of distractions, a lot of things we've not seen in the Caribbean, a lot of things that we have not gotten exposed to. But if you stay focused on your goal and achieving your desired success, then you won't be wavering. And those stories where people kind of got on drugs and what have you, you won't have an option to go over there. You already stay focused on what you want to do.
mm, mm, mm.
And of course, as
You
Caribbean people, we're not too far from the Africans, where if you leave that house, you better not embarrass your parents.
Oh, don't bring it back there now. Don't bring it back there now. We older now. You
That's
mentioned
there.
some stuff right there. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. We're gonna talk about focus. We're gonna talk about the word focus, but
Yeah.
you you had mentioned a lot of things in that section right there, and I'm just like looking at it like, dang, you know what? But something that I realized over the many years and of your journey and listen to it, the level of focusness that you have,
Yeah.
right? It's not like you're just doing anything and you're just like, yeah, I just did it to pass the time. Not once in our conversation did you say, I just took the job just to take it. You were like, no, I
Yeah.
took the job and I focused. I went to the school, I focused.
Yeah.
And you're saying it indirectly. You're not saying it straight out, but I'm hearing what you're putting down.
Yeah.
The level of focusness is there. And you're right. Some of these things we're not exposed to in the Caribbean. And you're right. Nowadays, people are paying thousands, sometimes $100,000 or so
Yeah.
just to get one room to stay in the Caribbean, in
Yeah.
St. Bart's or St. Kitts or
Yeah.
St. Lucia, all these places. And it makes when I hear stuff like that, I think back and I look at our culture and I look about this the Caribbean culture as a whole, and I'm like, we are that rich
Yeah.
where people want it's like oil, it's like they want that connection. They want to be on that island, and we came from there, right?
Yeah.
So it's good to always go back home, and when I touch down, I'm one of the first people to get on the ground and start praying, like, oh, I'm home, home. I feel safe now.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's craziness going on in the U.S. But you are right. But your level of focusedness, let's talk about that because that's something that our listeners will love to know. How do you manage to stay focused? You know what I'm saying? You're wearing multiple hats, working in different with multi projects,
Yeah.
different individuals. You know, dealing with a lot of groups. Like, how do you manage to stay focused during all this?
Yeah, so that takes some discipline, and to be honest, my driving force is always making sure that my client is satisfied. Not just doing the bare minimum and showing up, but looking for opportunities to overproduce and also be able to engage, making sure I'm meeting those needs, those clients' needs and what have you. But it can be a task to try and stay focused because you need a little bit of project management once you get into this field and you're starting to do client management. But it's also making sure meeting client expectation, making sure that I'm blocking out time to focus on each project, giving them the due diligence and value for what they're signing up for. So
Mm-hmm.
it does take a little bit of discipline. I think how my brain works, I'm on at 5 in the morning.
Oh
I
wow.
can get a lot done between 3 to 4, 3 to 6 o'clock in the morning. And
You talking about 3 a.m. to 6 a.m.?
3 a.m. to 6 a.m. I can get
Is
a lot
is that
done.
is that your routine or something? You trying to let us know?
Not necessarily, I try not to do it as a routine, but when I need to lock into work, because I do have a son, when I need to lock into work and
Congratulations.
get things done, thank you. That's my drill time. That's the time I get to focus and get things done because by the time he's up, it's time to take him to school and whatnot. And then, as an entrepreneur, you're answering emails, you're taking calls, there's not a lot of time as a business owner. You're kind of on your own. So you are the chef, the candlestick maker, are you the janitor, are you the marketing
the,
person?
the candlestick maker. That's a new one right there. You are the chef. I heard that, but the candlestick maker. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, we used to
So
have a nursery rhyme in the Caribbean talking about the candlestick maker, the baker, the candlestick maker. But you are, but like I said, managing different hats as an entrepreneur. So it's like, how do you do the work and still be able to deliver as you're the boss, the worker, and the assistant, and you have to play all three roles in every day in those,
yeah.
and I say beyond those 8 hours, but every day.
Well, you're doing it pretty well, and on top of that, having a child at the same time.
Yes.
So
Yes.
kudos to
Thank
you.
you.
So right when I thought you had enough hats, you just dropped another one on me.
Yes.
Like, hey, Paul, look, this one is in the back closet. Let me grab this one too. This is another one of my hats that I have. So
Yes.
kudos to you because it is hard to wear multiple hats and to wear them well, right?
Yeah.
But that comes with a level of focus. That comes with a level of discipline. That also comes with just that grit to definitely wear those hats well. Like some people just want to wear so many hats, but then they look sloppy. It's
Yeah.
just they need to focus their energy, but you definitely are doing it. And I think the reason why is a lot of that is because of service that you're doing. Like you're waking
Yeah.
up wearing that hat, but the hat is not for you just to wear. The hat
Yeah.
is for you to help inspire and help motivate and help give people the right information that they need so they can be
Yeah.
successful. So it's that hat is a little bit easier to wear if you love that type of work.
Yeah,
And
I
since you
love
do
what I
love
do.
it, you doing it. You doing
I
it.
love what I do. I find purpose in my work. I find value in my work. I definitely love what I do. And that's one of the things too, even working hard. I know my son is like, I see you working hard. I don't know if I want to be an entrepreneur. I said, when you start working for somebody else, you'll have a desire to be an entrepreneur. You'll have a
Without a
desire to
doubt.
wanna,
Without a
but
doubt.
I always say when I worked with the organization that I work with, I work really hard. I work really hard on building somebody else's dream. So why not put in the same effort or times two for my own dream?
And it kind of brings me to my last question. You're kind of saying it, you're saying something really good, but I'm hoping you're gonna drop some more information on us because I was gonna say if you could go back and offer advice to the younger self, right, that starting in the career, what would you say and like why? So I'm hearing you now on this one right here,
Yeah.
right? And I heard you on the level of focusness you got to have, and we're not exposed to a lot of these things in Caribbean. So when you come in here, you got to lock in. But is there something you would have said to the younger version of yourself?
So what I would say to my younger version, one, the focus is not to be an employee, but it is freedom. Freedom for flexibility, freedom of your own time. And we work, we nothing is wrong with being an employee, but having the flexibility or the freedom to be able to chart your own course, advocate for yourself. Since that incident with that manager on that job, every other job I took, I advocate for, I need training. What's your training budget? What's my training budget? Because I'm not gonna be able to be on a job and you're getting great value out of me and I'm getting nothing from you. It has
Mm,
to be a two-way street. So I advocate for training. I've advocated for a work from home day, things that will help me be more productive.
yeah.
So be in a position to advocate for yourself. I'm very big on I don't want people to talk on my behalf. And I don't want people to tell me about me. I'll tell you about me. So they shouldn't have the right to say, Zuleka, I think what would be good for you is, or you do. I had a manager. I had a manager at when I worked at the City of Atlanta Housing Authority. And he came in and he came in behind my former manager leaving, Rachel Carey, I mentioned. When she left, he came in behind her and then he quickly learned that not this one. She got a plan. So also have a plan for your career. Don't let your
Yeah.
managers have the decision to be like, I think you should do this training. No, you go to them with what you need to do. And if you're focused on what you found your focus, you found your drive, then you start to build out what are the things I need to do in order to get to this level. But my manager came in, he was like, I'm gonna do a performance review for you. And so what I think is, he started his sentence and I said, can I interrupt you? These are the training sessions I would like to given approval for. These are the workshops I would like to travel for. Is there anything else you want to add to my list? And can I get approval now so I can start planning? And he
Mm.
was like, you can't tell me to approve your stuff, but I'm the boss. I said, yeah, but I know where I'm going. I know what I know what I want to achieve.
I'm gonna snap for you right there. Excuse me. Sorry. Thank you so much for expressing that. But I know where I'm going. Right?
Yes.
You got to know
And
how to
he
advocate. You
always
got to know,
remembers
and you got to
that.
do it in a very positive way because some
Yes.
individuals they're already negative when we're in those conversations. But
Yeah.
you're like, it's okay. I greatly appreciate your advice, but I'm moving forward. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I already know what the goal was here. And at the time too, Atlanta Housing did not have a director of underwriting. It did not have an underwriting department. And I wanted myself and a colleague to be able to get more training and capacity in-house. And so I already knew like this was paying me when I was like, oh man, they need an underwriting department. They need an underwriting department. So after he left, and I think Catherine, shout out to Catherine Buell.
Mm-hmm.
Catherine
LinkedIn,
left.
I'm finding you now, Catherine.
After he left and Catherine left, and we had another CEO, I was able to um draft a plan. This is what I see for this department, this side of the department. Here's the budget. Here's what it's gonna look like. This is the training we need. And shout out to Brandon Reddick Seals who approved it at the time, the CEO. And that's how we got back to underwriting department in the city of Atlanta. But I knew that my focus, the department where I was a project manager. I knew that my focus was in underwriting, making sure that these deals pencil, making sure that the underwriters knew how to take a look at that deal, not only with the experience from DCA, but also, whatever else we can add that will be of value to when we run these deals that they pencil well. So
Mm-hmm.
be an advocate for yourself. Don't let
Mm-hmm.
people tell you about you. You tell them.
Mm-hmm.
That's your story.
You, come on. Come on now. Come on now.
Yeah.
Well, Zulika, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for just sharing your first and foremost your time, right? And
Yeah.
just being present with us on this platform. Thank you for being vulnerable and open about your story and your journey, wearing multiple hats, wearing them very well.
Thank
I
you.
really, really admire in our conversation about how you really emphasize the word service and really contributing to other people's success. Yes, of course, you could constantly keep climbing up that ladder. You could constantly keep having all those accolades and victories, but even within your growth as a leader, right?
Yeah.
You still found time to give back every single time. And
Yeah.
it's an honor to know that there are individuals like yourself out there, you know, it, especially when you're working in that type of field, corporate or in that type of environment. Individuals might take advantage of that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
giving people the right advice, just trying to make the deal, trying to move things along. But you're like, no, I'm going to walk you through, and I'll be there at the closing as well. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that we could close this moment in time off with some really great gems. Thank you so much for just being present on Zaka platform today.
No, thank you guys for having me. Thank you again. And also to Gregory, for reaching out. Thank you so much.
Okay, and I want to let the listeners know if you want to hear more inspirational stories like Zulika, please check us out on ZakaConnect.com. Follow our social at Zaka Connect and follow our feed Zaka wherever you listen to your podcasts.